But what are some of the other consequences of so few companies owning so many stations? What are the consequences of this?
Well, there's a study out actually today as we record this, released by the University of Delaware, that shows the more of these consolidated companies that are running TV stations, especially at the local level, the more they're reusing news across stations. So if you think about this, it's actually a study from the University of Delaware, came out today, that shows that stations owned by Nexstar and Sinclair and several of the other larger TV corporations, what they're doing is they're operating more than one station in a market, but they're not producing news on more than one station. They're just reusing the news across it. So back home, imagine if Channel 11 was reusing news from one of the other channels.
Right.
um, that's exactly what's happening. They're not even pretending that it's different news. They're just rerunning the same stories, the same packages across multiple stations. Now, that's basically what consolidation of ownership was designed to do. It allowed a station, if you take two stations, they can share the resources and reduce the price of the content that they have to produce.
Mhm.
But that wasn't supposed to apply to news. The idea was is you would do that for other types of content and then take the resources and put it back into the production of informational content. Well, that's of course not what happened. And if you allow these station groups to merge, you'll have even more of this process as it occurs.
So it's very similar to what happened with newspapers, right? As Gannett
And
took over all
radio.
the major newspapers in Wisconsin, I see the same stories in the Green Bay Press Gazette, the Oshkosh Northwestern, and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.
Well, the Gannett owns all the papers in Wisconsin,
Exactly.
basically. And so they use the same content on all the newspapers. There's a very famous example with Gannett where all the daily papers in Wisconsin during Lent run the same story about the best types of fish to fry, right? That happens every year. They run that story, right? But the same thing happened to radio in the late 90s and early 2000s when Clear Channel and Cumulus were buying up big groups of stations. They were doing that. They were moving groups of stations together, having less people operate them, but then using content from one type of station in Cincinnati or Milwaukee and sending it out to all of that. So your DJ, which used to be in your local market, was maybe in Cincinnati or Ohio or wherever, and then you were hearing that person in all around the United States.
Right.